In their search for continued success, many businesses lose touch with the foundational elements that fueled their success, becoming complacent and expecting the good times to just go on forever. And then they begin to struggle. Let's have ourselves a pocket-sized pep talk, because by leveraging a framework grounded on proven social sciences principles, ancient wisdom, and modern-day management principles, my guest today says any company can ignite business growth.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jollis.
Today's guest, Zain is a visionary leader, business accelerator, and industry futurist who combines innovation and creativity to create new business models for the future. He's the chairman and CEO of Shapiro and Raj, an independent research and insights company, and author of the new book, The Pyramid Puzzle, Igniting Transformation with the Power of Trust. It's nice to meet you, Zain, and welcome to the show, my friend.
Rob, it's a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon.
Perfect. Well, my pleasure is mine. I want to dive right in. And someday I was always thinking I might start a podcast, just call it A Book Finds You, because usually we don't find it, it finds you. So I'm curious, how did this particular book, and it's your third, how did this one find you?
Yeah, so it was an interesting journey, right? I write a lot and I love writing, and that kind of makes me happy. And when COVID hit, I started writing more because I was up earlier and I didn't have to commute every day to work, and I'm not traveling as much, right? And so I ended up writing a book that was titled BI in an AI World, right? It took me about 3.5, 4 months. And then I ended up writing another book about leadership principles for success. And what I tend to do when I write something is I let it sit, go back later, right? It's like a good steak, see how it's up, and does it going to cut well or taste well? Both of those were really nice books, but they felt like traditional business books. And frankly, I don't know about you, Rob, but what I know is a lot of the people I now know don't read a lot of business books because they don't want I'm trying to understand different frameworks and structures and stuff like that, right? So as I started thinking about how do I kind of crack the code, I was inspired by, what I love to read. I read a lot of history. So I read a lot of traditional history. But then what I've discovered is there's history fiction around periods, like Bernard Cornwell, right? Wrote stuff around, England. And so Eagleton wrote about the Mongolian Empire. So I just said, what if I have a thought about the principles of trust and how critical they are in the world of business? What if I just wrote a business novel? And it was fascinating. Just started writing and characters came to life and it just became fun. And frankly, I realized I'm having more fun writing this and actually communicating the principles I think are critical that get lost. And there we go. End up creating a cast of characters, started building a narrative, wrote it from the beginning to an end, and put it away for a little while, went back to read it, and oh my God, still loved it and continue to love it. And I must have read it at least 50 times through the process of getting it done to kind of, getting it out. And I haven't stopped loving it yet. So that to me is how it came about. And now it feels like this is likely to be a series where I've already managed to write the second one of this along the way. So yeah, it found me. It got me excited. It got me passionate. It's gotten me happy.
Yeah. And congratulations, by the way. I only know one other book I ever read like yours, and I want to make sure everybody understands what we got here. Because I would look at your book and I was scratching my head at first going, who's this CEO? Who are these people? What happened to my traditional book? From what I've got from your book, it like you said, it reads like a novel. You're telling a story, and yet you're teaching us within the story as the story unfolds. And I read one other book this way a few years ago, a Barrett Kohler author that I know. And I want to tell you, it's one of my favorite formats, and you're only the second person I've ever met who's done it that way. Because you're absolutely right. I'm writing business books, and everybody thinks we go by page count. We don't. We go by word count, we authors. And we've watched it trim from 80,000, 70,000, 60,000. The last book I wrote, 40,000. I was like, it was like a pamphlet. It's better than that. But point being, I really think that's an incredibly creative way to do it. And I can see how you could enjoy it. And yeah, why not continue to tell stories that way, as long as you can pull the messages from them?
And that's exactly right, right? Because when you think about constructs that are human based, right, which are talking about the dimensionality of us as human, the humanity that we bring in, right? That's kind of idiosyncratic in a lot of ways. It's kind of empathetic in other ways, and it's inspirational in other ways. And in some cases, just plain people to people talk. And I teach as well. And one of the things I've realized is you cannot teach ideas and constructs unless you can put them within context, and you can put them within a story, right? A narrative is how we all process information. This is how people used to do it 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. They told stories. They wrote stories as a way to tell you the principles of life. And to me, that's what got me jazzed, because when you think about the concept of trust, right? Trust is the most overused word in business and in personal life, and it's the least understood word in business and in personal life, right? We got all the paradigms. So yeah, so that's what turned out to be fun about bringing a belief that I have, making it human and having it connect back with each other. And that's why it made me happy. I'm like, wow, I'm communicating and I am communicating deep thoughts without them feeling deep, because they don't need to be. It's just what we are and how we operate.
Yeah. And I think, Zain, it's not unusual when I talk to people who are not just teachers, but good teachers. So, and I'm not beating up the teaching industry. We have good everything. We have good lawyers and bad lawyers, good doctors and bad lawyers, doctors, good teachers and bad teachers. But the good ones, they don't just want to dispense information. They are challenged to inspire people, to motivate them, minorly, even entertain them if they need to get that information in, and they fight for it. And so it doesn't surprise me that as an author, I think you're kind of an unconscious competent. I think you're tapping into the, how do I hold on to my audience as a teacher? Now, how am I going to hold on to that audience as an author? And if you don't teach, if you don't put yourself in front of a room, it's hard to develop that, but it's more natural for teachers. So again, doesn't surprise me that that's your style, but it also tells me a little bit about you as a teacher, truly.
Well, thank you. It was actually interesting. I was on some personal time off. We soft launched the book last week, and as we were traveling, one of the folks who was at the same destination had picked up a copy from the soft launch because it was referred to him. And Saturday afternoon, this young man showed up, and he's not young. I mean, he heads up the chief technology officer of a Fortune 10 company, and he came up with a copy of the book saying, hey, can you autograph this? And I'm like, wow, we just soft launched this, right? We're kind of still in the build-up mode. This man had gone through the entire book, had circled pages, had tagged pages, and said, I've already gotten some key insights that I've already started sharing with my teams from vacation as a way to kind of deal with some of the challenges we have as we're working on coming back to work. And how do you build team dynamics on this? How do we kind of stay connected together? And as you can imagine, and you're an author and a very successful one, right? When you get that just unsolicited and somebody comes in, I had goosebumps and I almost cried, right? Yeah. And it's just, to me, it felt like, okay, that was a good thing. There's a reason why I like it, but it is adding value. And as you can tell, as a teacher, as an author, even just in a human perspective, if you've added value in some way, there's no better joy than that.
There isn't. And for all of you listening, truly, Zain, I'm going to say it for both of us. One of the nicest things is to come up and ask to get a book signed. A lot of people are a little bit nervous. Maybe they think this will put the author off. We live for those moments. It means a great deal to us. And to your point, I've had people that come up and say, they've got their book and they really loved it, and it's barely bent. And I tell them, here, let me sign it for you. I said, now next time, I want you to go drag it through the flower bed a little bit, beat it up a little before you walk up here. And they'll start laughing. They go, I'm getting to it. I'm sure you are, but knock it around a little bit. It'll make us feel even better. So I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Zain, let's go to some of the lessons. Okay. Because one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is, as a guy who talks to a lot of salespeople, I'm always fascinated with trust, because for me, it's been more difficult to process trust. There are other tactics that are much easier to measure and process. And so I'm curious from you how you did it. I think you say it's an underleveraged impact maker, and you're not getting an argument from me. But why do you think first of all, why is it so difficult to truly process? And maybe onto that, why is it such a blind spot for so many people?
It is for exactly the reason why you're asking the question. There's so many different ways the word trust is used in so many different so an average company, right, a Fortune 500 company, when you look at all of the stuff that they measure, the word trust is in a lot of their tracking studies, it's in a lot of their customer survey feedback, right, follow-ups and stuff like that. But there isn't a construct that they use on trust, right? Because trust is seen as, do you believe me or not, right? Trust has become synonymous a lot with, do you believe me or not, right? And to me, the foundation of trust is a very simple foundation. And that's why it's a human foundation, which is why it works across every aspect, right? And the foundation and the equation is this: set clear expectations, meet or exceed them consistently, and you will earn trust. Where companies fail, where people fail, is they don't set clear expectations, right? So salespeople, right? A lot of salespeople are trying to sell. So they use all the techniques of, let me build relationships, let me send things of value, let me become more important to the person, then I will ask them, right? Some of the most impactful salespeople, and you're a better expert on this than I am, the most impactful salespeople basically start by setting a clear expectation of their prospect or their customer, which is, I am here to help you succeed by helping you deliver Y, right? And then they actually meet up with that. So my best experience with salespeople, and obviously I run businesses, I've been in the service business my entire career, so I've always been selling. But my perspective on selling has been very simple. Any client, especially new ones, I go, you will always get what you need, never what you want. So let's unpack that for a second. You have a business problem and you need a solution for the business problem. 9 times out of 10, what happens when you go with the right solution to business problem, they go, but no, but I think I want it that way, right? And so setting an expectation of what you need allows me to take a stand on where it is at, but then I consistently meet those expectations, exceed them, because not only do I take a stand, but I do what's right, and I challenge them to pivot from where they are. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm called a business accelerator, because we can drive value, is because it's hard for people to change. And by driving that level of change, they see the impact of what comes about, right? So it's the simple equation of set clear expectations. Most companies, when they talk to the external stakeholders, especially the multidimensional ones, customers being one, suppliers being another, employees being third, owners, stakeholders being fourth, they are setting different sets of expectations for people. And then they're not consistent in delivering against that.
Yeah.
And so when you set an expectation and not deliver, you basically destroy trust. If you set an expectation and you deliver consistently, you start building trust. But the other thing what people don't realize in this context is everybody gets all the big things right. Every brand, every company tries to kind of deliver on a human basis, gets all the big things right. They fail on the small things. And true trust happens not when you do all the big things right, because that's green fees, gets you on the course. It's the smaller things that matter on a consistent basis. I'll give you a story if that makes sense. One of my airlines that I've flown on many millions of miles on is United Airlines.
You and me both,
Chicago,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Their promise is fly the friendly skies, right? So what are the expectations they're setting? It's not even a very clear expectations, but if they say fly the friendly skies, that means friendly people, right? But that also, and then as COVID happened, they start talking about clean planes, right? Clean everything, da, da, da. So obviously they get you from A point to B, yada, yada, yada. Well, guess what? So I get on a flight from Chicago to Los Angeles, right? They make us stand apart. Do you have your mask on? This is when COVID was a little bit of a rage. and I was still traveling during those times. And I walk into the plane, and I'm in 3E, right? And so I turn around to walk in. This lady gives me the wipes. We've already sanitized, right? The flight was there 20 minutes because they're sanitizing the plane, the bathrooms. Great, awesome. I walk in, I turn the corner, and right by 1B is a toothpick on the floor. And right in front of my 3E seat is a crumpled facial towel, right? A napkin down. Now I'm looking at it saying, all of a sudden, I'm not feeling very friendly or safe because I'm assuming the toothpick dropped from somebody who used it and the tissue looked used, right? If you're telling me it's friendly, it's going to be safe, and you're not able to clean your aircraft up, you're suddenly not very friendly, right? It's a small things. They got my meal that they asked me to pre-order on the plane. They got the right meal, right? They obviously gave me my coffee the way I wanted it, but that didn't matter because I lost confidence and I go, boom, right?
Right.
That is the problem. And so trust is, and it's a human emotion, right? And that's part of the reason why I brought in the whole aspect of ancient wisdom within the context and tied in with the whole social sciences framework, because humans use sound bites, right? We have our heuristics that at a fundamental level will take a look at something, and if it's dissonant to an expectation you set, you start seeing the mortar between the bricks crumble, right? Of trust. And I think to me, that is part of the reason why it's not working, because you need to be able to have very clearly set expectations.
Right. Let me, I don't disagree, but let me ask you, because I think you make a really good point. Rather than a business, I think while you were talking, I'm thinking about managers who are trying to create trust with teams, and the ones that don't do it well. I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I'm struggling with is, why do you think managers aren't getting the memo on this? I don't think it's a people problem. I think it's a process problem. Is kind of what I'm driving at. What do you think is broken there?
So I'll tell you what. I mean, I truly believe that the way we define business, the way we define teams, hierarchies, I think is basically the old world model. Okay. We keep it. I'm in the airline business. I'm in the hospital business. I'm in the manufacturing business, right? I'm in the service business. I'm in the consulting business. We're all wrong. Those are the industries and categories we work in. Every business needs to start thinking about themselves as a people business. Okay? If you start thinking about yourself as a people business, what you suddenly realize is all the dynamics around the process and all of that is great. It's a way to kind of give people a guardrails and a roadmap, but that's not what's going to change anything, right? What you need to make sure is your people trust you. And if we talk about expectation, if the expectation for everybody in the company is we are going to be this kind of a company, which means we're going to deliver an experience like so, then it's got to be everybody in the front lines all the way to the back. If they align on it, and that expectation is, it's got to be the cleanest aircraft on the planet, right? It's got to be the safest environment, and you're going to create the friendliest experience for people, right? And you allow them to feel vested in it. That is what happens with trust. So what happens with trust is that pressure points on trust, right? Employees of a company need to feel that they are owners and deliverers of the value that the company is going to deliver to the customers. The customers are people who need to believe that the company and the people who represent the company are going to actually give me the capability and the services that we have. The suppliers that the company has need to believe that they're partners that are being valued for bringing value-added capabilities that makes the company successful. So the critical aspect is, here's the reality. If you look at the data, right? Most suppliers don't feel partners, because guess what? 92 out of 100 companies in the Fortune 500 don't have a supplier program. They have a vendor program. So when you start with a word called vendor, right? And the supplier is adding value to your business and they expect to be seen as a partner and not being seen as a partner, the expectation has broken. So why would a vendor operate like a partner? Now, if you make a supplier a partner and true partner and treat them fairly, right? Reward them fairly, right? Give them an opportunity to grow with you, allow them to help you grow. You have an inspired capability. If your employees feel like they own the experience and they believe and deliver on your expectation of them, and that requires the managers and the directors and the vice presidents and the C-suite, everybody to be aligned on the same point of view, the same exact expectation, that all of them are willing to stand to be counted. Not that it's your job now to make that happen. And then if that happens, guess what happens? The customer then gets the experience. Now, the problem with most of the companies and even individual relationships is there are not too many people who have very clearly set expectations. Because everybody, like I said earlier, sets different expectations for different stakeholders.
Yeah.
Ergo, you're never going to earn trust because you can't deliver on fragmented sets of expectations.
Yeah. Zain, let me break in on that because I think you just nailed it. I think personally, it's that vague communication. And I'm pushing back to the managers again. Okay. But it doesn't have to be a manager. When it's vague, in other words, some of the best managers I had, sometimes the news was good, sometimes it wasn't good, but you always knew where you stood. When you have a manager who's unclear about those expectations, then you begin to get paranoid. The team begins to chatter a little bit. We stop trusting the good and the bad. And so to me, it's really nailing those expectations down and getting at and communicating before things become big issues. A lot of times we can chip away at it. That's what
And you're absolutely right, Rob. I mean, I think you nailed that aspect of it. And that lack of specificity of the expectation is what happens, right? And I was speaking to a group a couple of weeks ago, and there are companies that are trying to transform themselves, and they had this whole workshop about vision, mission, values, right? And it was a 4-page document. And the simple context was, at the end of the day, if you're going to communicate this to another person, I said, just let's take that person, whoever in your company, right? Did a role play and say, this is what we are going to stand for, and this is what it means, how we operate.
Yeah.
Can you do that? And it was fascinating. It took them 3 days, but they finally got down to, as we call the elevator speech. And as I said to them, we no longer have 30 seconds in the elevator. We got 8 seconds, right? In that 8 seconds, and to me, that's the biggest fundamental critical component that companies miss, is what is that 8-second thing that is a fundamental solution to a problem that you're solving for your customer? And then how does that then work all the way through your ecosystem of employees and stuff like that? How does it connect all the way back to your suppliers so that they can all align? And how do you then align all your stakeholders, in which in public companies is your investors and stuff like that, so that everybody becomes a force on one? But that has to start with people believing that we're serving humans, that each person, the only reason for a business to exist is to solve a problem for another human being at the end of that point in a way that's distinct, unique, or empathetic, authentic, some way, consistently.
Yeah. The book is called The Pyramid Puzzle, Igniting Transformation with the Power of Trust. Came out, I think, June 23rd? I was looking it up a little bit. Yeah. So weeks ago. It's fresh as a daisy, sitting on Amazon right now. So go take a look. I really, there's an old saying that, when you have a process, you have a way of measuring what you're doing. And when you can measure it, you can fix it. And so I'm going to pin you down a little bit more.
Sure.
Talk to me about and maybe there aren't any, but some real measurable process moves. So I've got the concept of we're going to exceed expectations. Let's put it that way. But my analytical listeners are going to say, good, I want to do it. Is there a path I can follow? Can I measure what he's just describing? You take a shot at that.
Yeah, sure. So I think if you read the book, what that book does is actually walks you through the entire process of how a struggling company got to struggling,
Mhm.
and then all of the steps that the protagonists take to one step at a time to start fixing each of the issues in the entire value chain of the business. Okay. But the way you fundamentally measure is there is a construct of trust, but the trust is basically set up on, do they clearly understand the expectations that we are setting with them, right? Does the customer, does the employee? So you have to trust the resonance of your promise, okay? And so that is an easy to measure. Now, if you look at traditional companies that do traditional tracking studies, they have so many different attributes, right? There's 17 different equity attributes. There are 15 average performance attributes, and they're trying to test so many different things that you can't add it up. Here's one data set. It's called net expectation. It comes out of 5 simple questions. And do your stakeholders all get what the net expectation is? And it's easily measurable and easily trackable. Once you have that, and what those 5 attributes are is, do they understand and clearly understand the value proposition you have, which is the expectation, the promise you're making. 2, what are the 3 core dimensions that have to happen operationally to deliver that, right? So, for example, under Friendly Skies would be different than if you're Delta or if you're a car company, right? But in this, if you're saying friendly, right? How did you feel around the thing on a rating of 1 to 7, right? The second one is cleanliness, because cleanliness is a heuristic towards friendly, because I will only feel open to a positive emotion if the experience in the place I'm in is clean, right? So on an airline, it would be cleanliness, because bathrooms get used on long flights, right? Food gets served. You're using the tray table to kind of set your laptop down, the book down, whatever, right? Your seat. And then the third dimension on it comes in is, did the experience that you have, be something that you would like to experience again? Okay. It's actually a very fascinating question to ask. Will you want the same experience again? And if you get a yes, why? If you get a no, why not? 1 sentence answers. Okay. The third dimension on this is, are your people trained to deliver that experience? Right. So if you think about, we're staying with the airline industry, when Southwest was hot and they were delivering a lot of things operationally well, when the purser up there started singing a song, right, or brought you your peanuts, you realize that this was going to be a relaxed stuff, because I'm going on vacation, coming up, I want to be relaxed, right? So they set a contextuality. So what the people tend to do when they deliver on an airplane, in a retail store, on a customer service center, is, can they actually align with that friendly experience, right? And then the fourth thing that comes about is your process for purchase and or post-purchase friction-free, right? So you can track that. And then the fifth one finally becomes, is your friendly, how different is it from your 2 other critical competitors? Because what happens is most companies tend to kind of measure that in isolation, because that's what they stand for. But what they don't realize is things like friendly, things like all of those are fairly generic attributes too, right? Unless you look at the other dimensions. You look at this, but really compare against everybody else. And now you can take the data from all of those questions to get to a net expectation med score. That is how you move it. It works into the employee surveys. It works with kind of conversations with suppliers. It clearly gives you a simple 1-pager without a lot. And it absolutely indicates the actions you need to take and what area you take the actions in.
Does your book provide a job aid like that? In other words, now the train room is coming out, and a job aid to me is almost like a cheat sheet, right? So you're telling a story and you're extracting pieces from it, and in a very creative way, basically taking this on a test drive of your concepts. But what do I? Maybe I've got to go to the website. But what do I do when I say, okay, give me something? I'm going to meet with a client tomorrow. And
that to me is a fantastic aspect of it, right? No, I don't. Okay, because I've written a couple of books with those kind of cheat sheets. There's another million books with those kind of cheat sheets. Very few people use them. So to me, my intent on this was as a starting point. I don't want to boil the entire ocean. I can't boil the entire ocean, right? This purpose of this book was to basically start getting people to realize, especially in business, especially people who are kind of, trying to find a way to thrive and grow or survive, is start at least from a very different prism, right? Most businesses start with my business is in trouble. I'm not selling enough. So let me kind of goose my salespeople, or, right, my product quality is down. Let me fix that, right? Or let me kind of, right? That's the way business, because what businesses get larger, they're no longer aligned to anybody out there. They're aligned to the business of the business. Okay. And they forget that they're serving one human being at the other end. And I'll give you a classic example. One of the large, companies that, we worked with a little while ago, they were having difficulty. The business is sliding. And we went and said, tell me more about your customer. You know what they said? Yeah, our top decile, 45 to 65, right? Average income of $60,000 a year, right? They come and visit our stores 14 times a year, yada, yada. I'm like, no, just tell me who that customer is. And they couldn't. Right. They had no idea. It's a multi-billion-dollar enterprise that had no idea at a humanity level. And when we went in and actually did a lot of ethnography, and I actually was engaged on that, and I kind of spent 3 days with the customer group, right? And the homes, 24/7 lived with them. You know what you realize is it's Juan and Maria Segreste, 2 kids. Grandma lives with them. They work 5 jobs and they work 7 days a week. Grandpa sitting in Mexico working for Patron, building hand-built bottles for Patron tequila. He's sending money here, versus I'm an immigrant, right? I came with nothing. And we're expected to send money back to our parents, right?
Right.
But people lose touch with the humanity. And so the intent of this book is to say, guys, start any problem that you have, any opportunity to look at. If you start with one human being at the end of your spear, that's the person whose problem your business is solving, and understand what they need is a clear value prop from you, expectation that says, here's how I will solve your problem, which then you should give me a shot.
Yeah.
So it's just opening that aperture, not boiling the ocean. If people buy into this thing, if they get excited about this, and if they want to follow through, there's a follow-up. They can go to zainraj.com and ring, and I will definitely send them a cheat sheet. But I didn't want to kind of burden this book into, hey, I'm writing it as a story to bring the idea to life. But now let me tell you all the ways you can fix your business.
I got you. Okay. All right. Yeah, because I'm obsessed with implementation. I think telling for us, we can put on the greatest program in the world. If they don't implement, nothing else matters. So I think some of the challenges for trainers, for writers, is I'm going to take something very complex and I'm going to make it easier for you to understand. That's what makes me a writer. It's what makes me a communicator. When I can't do it, I'm not much of a writer or a communicator. And so,
And exactly right? I mean, I had to stay single-minded on what I was trying to do, because if I didn't do that, then all of my context of set clear expectation, meet them, would be basically talking out of, 2 sides of my mouth. And I don't want to be the God Janus, right? With 2 sides and, along the way. So I think to me, the clarity of just, I have built my entire career on one simple premise. We all exist at any point in time to solve somebody's problem. And if we just think about from a humanity to humanity standpoint, like you're talking, right? You and I talking, what's your problem? How can I help you solve it in a clear enough way? All businesses do is it multiplies it and make it a scale, right? Mm-hmm. But what's happened, unfortunately, with businesses, as they scale, they lose touch with that. Just go further and further away, right? And I think the purpose of my kind of rant, if you will, right, in a very nice, engaging way, is to kind of say, guys, whatever you do, you may be the CEO of the largest company on the planet, but at the end of the day, you are only going to survive if that one person that's going to walk into a store or buy your product online, whatever, that one person continues choosing you, you're going to be doing well. If you stop doing that, if the person stops using you, you're dead meat. right? So think about that person. And at a fundamental level, from a business standpoint, a business needs to earn its trust. And I'll give you another example of one of my favorite brands that actually just destroyed everything for one purpose. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, but bring it in 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minute quick story. Peloton, right? Peloton got it in 2020 when we stopped going to the gym. My wife wanted a bike, got it, paid $3,000, got a wonderful bike, right? Worked for us for a while. And then, 6 months ago, they had a recall because the seat stand was breaking, right? And mine had started cracking. So I reached out and said, okay, great for the recall. Thank you very much. I'd like one.
That's your
4
story?
months into it, I didn't get one. I haven't gotten one.
Right.
No communication, sent all of the emails and did on the website, didn't work. Finally called, had to wait on a call for an hour and a half. And I get told, well, we are in really short supply, blah, blah, blah. It's a call center. You can tell the call center, right? I said, okay, fine. Can you give me a timetable? Because I haven't been able to work out, right? And they go, oh, it could be anywhere from 90 to 120. We still don't know. So I said, okay, so can I just get a refund on my subscription? I'm paying $65 a month to subscription, and I can't use it, right? Okay, well, I can't deal with it. I have to go to my supervisor, but we'll get back to you shortly. I'm like, how shortly? 48 hours, right? 9 days later, I haven't heard back from them. I've tried calling them, right? I don't have 90 minutes to sit on a call to get $65 a month back, right? But guess what, right? I'm sitting out there with a dead meat piece of equipment that gets me upset every morning because now I'm using other pieces in my little gym. That's trust destroyed.
Yeah. Well, and it brings me to my last question, which is, once trust is broken, they say it can never be repaired. That depresses me a little bit. I know that's the line in business. Can it be repaired?
It can be repaired. It's a lot of work. Yeah. It's a lot of work, but it can be repaired. And I think that's why this book talks about a company that was failing, didn't understand why they were failing, were trying to do all the traditional things, bumps into a professor who had people with different points of views, and we talk about the journey on how to rebuild trust. It's an expensive pathway because you got to work really hard across stakeholders, but yes, it can. But you need to recognize that you got a human problem, and then human problems need to solve with humanity, not with operational improvements and doing other things.
Right. Yeah. The one thing I learned, Zain, was in business, it's kind of strange when I say this. I don't want you to jump all over me, but when you're involved in a situation like that, the one you just described, which would certainly break trust, but maybe we've got somebody higher level who does seek you out and is trying. The one thing, it's instinct versus logic. The one instinct that we have a lot of times is to apologize. And I wish businesses would understand that that's really not what the other party wants. That's rather hollow to them. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. They want to be acknowledged. And then you can go ahead and grab information from us and tell us. But if you miss that stop sign and you want to say sorry, that is like holding a red sheet to a bull. That's just going to make me angrier. Right?
That's brilliant. That's so true.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's been terrific. The book, I wish you a ton of luck on it. The book's called The Pyramid Puzzle: Igniting Transformation with the Power of Trust. And look, there's different authors talking about trust. I weave it into some of my books, but I love your approach to it. I think that's just a really interesting way to almost take a journey through it and really watch its application. And I wish you nothing but luck with the book. And I'm grateful you came in. I really appreciate it. How do people get a hold of you, Zain?
They can get me at Zain at zainraj.com. Yeah. Okay. Or just go to zainraj.com and you can find me and you can write to me and I can get you an A sheet, Rob, if you want one, or answer any questions. They can also reach me at Zain at shapiroraj.com, which is a firm that I'm the principal of. And they can get my book at Amazon, BarnesNobles.com, Goodreads.com. But I prefer Amazon because that's where you get pretty fast turnaround.
Yeah. And if you see Zain walking through the airport and you got your book, dirty it up a little bit and go up to him and ask him to sign it. He can't wait.
Absolutely.
No, I listen. I think it's a great concept. I'm going to pay you one last compliment. Really, so many times in this interview, you made me smile inside. And that's the sales guy in me. When you kept talking and hammering back on the problem. What problem are we trying to fix? What problem are they trying to fix? Do we understand the problem that they're grappling with? So many people, particularly in sales, I keep trying to figure out what somebody needs. What's the need? What are they asking for? That is way down. You're going to miss the whole party. You're waiting for what they need. It starts as a problem. People don't fix small problems. They fix big problems. So they want you to do some of the concepts that Zain's talking about so they feel enough trust to talk to you about the problem and go a little deeper into that problem. And if you can do that, boy, the world is your oyster, not just in sales, but in business. So let's not lose sight of that. I'm glad that you apparently take that problem solving very seriously. So thank you from the sales community, sir.
Well, you know what? Thank you for this conversation. I think this is also very inspiring for me.
Good.
Rob, thank you.
I appreciate that. Listen, folks, we'll do it again as well as we can next time. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.